My father didn't really like to talk about his history. I tried to ask him once, but it was just really painful for him. I think one of the things being part of Watsumo Taiko is to learn about the Japanese culture and traditions and festivals and things like that, which I didn't learn from my parents. We just tried very hard to just be American. We wanted to fit in. My grandfather, when he lived in Japan, was a carpenter, but when he couldn't get enough work, then he'd do farming. So when they came to America, we basically couldn't really get a job here because of prejudice and things like that. So a lot of people just went into farming. My father and my mother and their families were sent to the same internment camp. So that's where they met and got married. My parents would speak English, but then they would speak we would mix Japanese in, so I would go to school thinking that's all English that they're speaking. So sometimes I would go to school and I would say these Japanese words, and the teachers weren't where they would say, well, I don't understand you, what are you saying? They were just like, what's the matter with her? So I just, a lot of times and I was really shy too, but I stopped talking a lot because it was so negative. It wasn't like someone would say, I think you're speaking Japanese, or I don't know that word, can you, it was just like they just didn't want to bother. Growing up here, feeling like if I really am myself and do things that is my Japanese part, somehow here it's maybe not negative, but it's just different, and just that feeling of you're different, and feeling like in a certain way you don't belong, or you just feel a little bit separate. I met another third-generation Japanese man, and I was saying, that maneki neko, that means, and he says, how do you know that? Were you born in Japan? And I said, no. He said, my mother wouldn't let us learn anything about that after the war. And I said, that's the same for me too. I said, I had to study it. I had to study to learn about my own culture. drumming is really, energizing, and it's really good to work as a group of people. But for me to be able to connect with Japan and the Japanese culture is really important. Because being Japanese American, it's like I'm American, but still there's a part of me that is so Japanese. It's in my heart is still Japanese. I saw San Jose Taiko play, and when they kiai, I just thought that was the strangest thing because we're really quiet. My parents never let me shout like that. Playing taiko is seen as a positive thing for women to feel strong, and for me to have this connection with the my culture, and for my son to be part of it. I said, well, you guys are only half Japanese, but how do you know these values? And he just looked at me and he said, Mom, I'm all Japanese. So, when we think about, well, their dad is part Mexican, part Caucasian, and I'm all Japanese, but they're not dividing themselves up, which I thought was, well, yeah, I guess we shouldn't really divide ourselves up like that.